Where's Walt? And there he is!
Hey, I'm Jeff, and this is Jessica, and welcome back to Adventures with Walt.
Walt's taking a nap, in case you are wondering.
Is he still taking a nap at this point?
He is. Today, April 2nd, is World Autism Awareness Day. And in honor of that, we wanted to share our story of Walt and what's been going on. Some friends know this. A lot of our family does.
We haven't been public.
But we haven't been fully public about Walt. On December 15th of last year, Walt was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. We noticed around the 2-year mark, he wasn't hitting those 2-year goals, specifically speech and communication. And so when we talked to the pediatrician, he was like, you know what, I think everything's fine, but let's go ahead and can get you a consult with a speech pathologist. So we did that consult, and then we started with speech therapy. And when we had the speech pathologist consult, they wanted to do another consult.
We've had a lot of...
It's been a lot of consults, but basically the next step would be, to test for autism and that kind of things. So we had that consult. And it takes a while. It's not an easy process. It's not a quick process. But through many consults, he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder.
We took some time to process, and we're still processing, and our families are still processing, and luckily we've had tremendous support, and we're really proud of him. He's still our little guy. He's still amazing.
When he was diagnosed, one of the first things they said is, it's still Walt. He's still your Walt. He's still your kid. There's just something new to add on to it that might, make for a challenge. It's going to make things not as easy as it would be, maybe for another kid, but now, and, we were able to catch it really, really early.
I think the biggest thing is that it gave us perspective on what was going on with him, because we were starting to struggle with him not talking, and every kid is different, and every 2-year-old is different. So it's like, how much is he just not talking because that's his journey, or was there something else that was affecting him? So we've been really, really grateful to be going through all of this and having the support we have.
On top of this, we're going through all of this during a pandemic, especially, around when he was diagnosed was when everything just really started escalating so high. And, it was hard because we had a lot of, the friends that we did tell that, weren't many, they wanted to support us, and they're like, we can't even see you. I want to hug you. My mom's like, I just want to come over and hug you.
One of the big things he needs is social interaction. He needs really to be with other kids, but
he can't.
It's still something we can't do.
And that's what we thought at the beginning was the issue, was that he wasn't having social interaction because the pandemic, he seemed up until 18 months, which was March of last year, which is when everything hit. He seemed to be going on the right path developmental wise. He seemed to be hitting all those milestones. But then it seemed to kind of backtrack, and he kind of seemed to regress. And I'd been reading articles that was happening to a lot of kids during the pandemic because they weren't getting the socializations. Suddenly they were regressing things that they knew how to do. They were toilet trained, suddenly they weren't toilet trained. Things like that. And so I just thought, maybe this was another pandemic related thing. And we're learning very quickly. Obviously it wasn't. And so it's been difficult, and it's been hard. The pandemic just put a whole nother level of awfulness on this whole thing. because a lot of the assessments they would traditionally do in person. We only had one assessment in person. The rest of them were all done through teletherapy and through visual and video, which was so awkward and weird. And even the people that were doing it going, this is not how we usually do it. This is just how we have to right now. But they still saw the touchstones and the things you would see in a kid that has autism spectrum disorder, that they would have. It's weird. And, I asked the doctor when he was first diagnosed, where do you see him on the scale? There's a scale from what I've read about, 1, 2, and 3. He's about at 2 is what the doctor says. That can change as he gets more therapies. But that's where he is right now.
Let's try to answer some of your unanswered questions too. Where is he at? Well, first of all, he's not talking yet, but he makes a lot of noise now.
Right. Yeah, are you talking to the camera?
Therapy has been amazing. We've started in-home therapy 5 days a week, 18 hours a week.
With the ABA therapy,
with an ABA therapy, and it's myself and him and the therapist, and it's really been a huge help. When he was diagnosed years ago with my radio and my hosting stuff, I had done a lot of work with the Autism Tree Foundation. I'd had a lot of exposure to working with autism charities, and I'd gone to a few meetings where parents were like just letting it out, their experience. And this is like 15 years ago, 13, 14 years ago, where autism has come a long way with how much they've learned about it in those years. But I just remember those parents and sometimes the shame or the anger or the sadness, and it's that journey of acceptance. But we pretty quickly came to the accept.
There's
we're
days
still struggling.
We still struggle, and at first it was hard because the first thing you do as a parent is you blame yourself. What did I do wrong? Was there something that I did? Did I eat the wrong cheese when I was pregnant? I don't know. You never know. And because there's no real one set cause of autism, there's 5 million things that could cause it. Having that guilt and that you think you did it yourself, really, it sucks.
Plus, the denial phase. No, he's super smart though. And he's super smart. He likes people. He's really happy. He's a happy kid, and he's really, really smart. You don't understand. We're going through a lot of the assessments where they're asking us questions. We're like, no, he's never done that. And they're like, okay. And it's like, and you're like, I know he didn't fail a test just now, and I didn't, no one failed, but they definitely just checked a box where I'm trying to explain, no, we just never asked him to do that. It's not that he can't do that. And then us even going through it, they would be like, well, how many words does he understand? And we're like, well, we don't know because he doesn't say them, but Jessica at one time thought, well, he probably knows 10. And I'm like, no, it's 50. Because I was like, you can name things and he will respond to them. So, but that's what I'm saying.
Saying them,
But that's what I'm saying, is our denial of no, he's so smart.
Yeah, and there is some things he's super smart with. For example, puzzles. This kid is doing puzzles unlike any kid I've ever seen. For his age, he's 2.5. He is doing these 24-piece puzzles it's no problem. He loves them. So that's something he's really into. But then if he can't tell me if he has a poopy diaper, and it's
super smart with his tablet, which we limit his screen time, but he is a whiz on his tablet. And what was funny is we gave it to him for the first time in 3 weeks on the way home. Saturday night, we're driving home from Disney's California Adventure. He's in the back of the car. We're like, let's give him the tablets, see if he can stay awake on the ride home. And as we got home, she discovered he'd found the app with puzzles. It was just sitting there doing puzzles on his tablet. So he's he knows how to open apps. He knows what the different apps are. He knows how to close them, switch them. It's that type of stuff is just amazing. But it is one of those things but he isn't talking. He can't tell us certain things. He he does. I mean, we're learning the behavior, right? He'll act out in certain ways, and we're like, okay, something's going on. We need to address it. But again, he's not telling us what it is. It's like it's almost a
we're working on pointing, just the simple thing of pointing at a thing.
We had a pointing contest.
Most kids do that in about 18 months, 2 years for sure. And, you know, he did it for a little bit and now he doesn't do it. And so, you know, we're working on pointing right now. And it's a journey. It's a real journey, and it's there's good days and there's bad days. There's days where I literally said, this poor kid, I should have been a better parent to him. He deserves a better parent. You know, real conversations, real things that parents go through, you know, and you just wonder, what is his future going to look like? What is he going to be now? Because, you know, when you're a parent, that's what you think. You think, wow, what is my kid going to do? He's going to change the world. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. And then you get a diagnosis like this, and suddenly you're like, well, is he going to be able to do those things? Like, I mean, that's real talk. And you know what? That's kind of also, I want to segue into why we're sharing our story today, because those are questions that I had initially, is what's going to happen to him? What's his future look like? And seeing other people share their stories of their kids on, you know, websites and social media and things like that made me much less scared, because I go, oh, you know, they can't have a you know, a quote unquote normal life. It's hard. This is not the end of everything for my kid. You know, this is just the beginning. Things are just going to be a little harder for him, you know, a little more challenging. We're going to have to approach things a little differently than we might, you know, parents might do with their, other parents might do with their kids. And, you know, that's just the reality of the situation. And so we just have to figure it out. And so we want to share our story too, and what's going on with us, in the hopes that maybe one day one parent will see this and it'll make it a little less scary for them, a little less like, oh my God, this is the end of the world. Because it's not. You know, like I said, the doctor said to us, your child is still your child, and Walt is still our Walt. He's still this happy, silly, crazy little boy that we love so dearly. He is the light of our life. He's the best thing. I can't wait to get home every day when I'm at work, just so I can give him a big hug and he can give me that big smile. It's just, you know, and I'm hoping that, you know, if one parent sees this and it makes them get a little less scared, it's totally worth posting, and totally worth sharing our story. And to our friends that we haven't told yet, I'm sorry that we didn't. And this might explain why we haven't really been as much in communication lately, why we might have been like, you know, you wanted to see him, even, you know, socially distanced things, even, you know, just one-on-one outdoor, and we might have kind of been like, you know, oh, we'll say hi or
there's been
whatever.
A lot going on with this too.
It's well, and it's just, I just didn't want to talk about it, because it's very clear that he is not where he's supposed to be, because he's not talking. And, you know, it's, sometimes you just don't want to answer the questions. When I first found out, you know, I had to share with my close coworkers at my radio station that I work at with John and Tammy. And, you know, I waited, they knew I was going in for this developmental assessment, and because we had talked about it. And then the next day they asked me how it went, and I said, I don't want to talk about it. And I did tell them a couple days later what was going on, but I still didn't want to talk about it for like weeks.
Still processing.
Yeah, I was still processing. I just didn't want to talk about it with other, because I still didn't know how I felt. And that's okay, you know? And so that's another reason why, you know, some of you, like I said, our friends that didn't know this, family members that might not know, this is why we haven't been so public about it yet, because we're still processing it.
And going forward, we're still doing Adventures with Walt because he is such a pleasure. He's so much fun.
He's a great kid.
Like, circumstances hit. Like, the double lockdown for Christmas hit as we were starting to go into events, and we were launching Adventures with Walt. Mm-hmm. And we were going through the diagnosis of this. So, like, we just weren't making videos. But, and also, we don't want to do every video as Adventures with Walt as like a, hey, Walt is an autistic kid and da-da-da-da-da. But he is an autistic kid. But, like, we're just not, it's not going to be something that, like, it's not going to lead the channel. It's not, it doesn't, it's not, he's not going to wear it on his chest. It's just, he's an
But we
amazing
also don't
kid.
want to hide it. We are not going to hide it. And,
but it's
you
not
know,
like,
and if other parents can see this and it could help them a little bit, like, cool. Look, we're not experts. I'm going to say that forefront. We're learning right now. And, you know, as we learn, we'll, you know, maybe share some of that learning that we're learning with other parents.
we just feel in a good place to do this video. That's pretty much where we are.
I think the number one lesson before we end this, that we've learned through this is just, and that's also with World Autism Awareness Day and Autism Month, which is the month of April. Be kind. That's the biggest thing they want, is just to be kind. And so, you know, when you see a parent struggling with their child, you don't know what they're going through. They might have autism, they might not, and the child's just having a bad day. You don't know. So don't automatically assume that they're terrible parents, because you just don't know. You never know what somebody's going through privately in their life. And I think that's the number one lesson I've learned in the last year. And especially now, you know, already with the pandemic, I learned that lesson, but now going through what we've been going through the last couple months, with Walt's diagnosis, I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned, is just be kind, be compassionate, you know, be understanding, because not everybody's the same and everybody's story is different, and you don't know what people are going on and what's going through their private life.
Well, and shout out to all the folks that we've dealt with Walt over the last few months, where he'll pull his mask off and we're just, you know, like, hey, it's mask time, gotta wear your mask, and we're real patient with him. But like, other folks are patient with us. The grocery store, you know, Target or whatever, you know, like random theme parks we've been able to go to. But like stuff like that, like everybody's been really patient with us as well. And it's such a relief, because, you know, I mean, you don't feel like everyone's got your back, but it is nice to know that someone's like, hey, I get it, take your time, like, don't worry about it. Like, anytime someone has been saying to us, like, hey, we get it, don't worry, take your time, it's always just been a huge relief, because we're not embarrassed, but it's one of those things, like, we just, you know, and it's great when people have empathy for us. So shout out to everyone who's had empathy for us, and we've seen it and felt it, and we just, I mean, how else do you recognize that? But we thank people when they're like, you know, they say, hey, take your time. We go, thank you so much. And there's no discussion about extra treatment. It's just, you have a kid who's struggling with the mask. We get it. Take your time. Very appreciative.
Yeah, totally. So thank you guys for watching. I know this is a long video of us just talking, but we really appreciate it. We just wanted to share our story, so that everybody knew. And, you know, if you feel so compelled, wear some blue today, because that, you know, show your kindness, wear your blue, show your support for those with autism. If you want there's a great organization if you need more information on autism, that I've really leaned on, is the Autism Speaks website. They have a great the first 100 days after your child is diagnosed, and they also have guides for people that know people that kids have been diagnosed with autism or autism spectrum disorder, because it's a really great guide to kind of help understand things more. It was wonderful for me. And then also there's a lot of other great organizations. The one off the top of my head I can think of is the Home of Guiding Hands here in San Diego. They do great work for adults with autism and also with kids. I mean, they're the ones that did our assessment.
And all the groups we've worked with have been fantastic.
Yeah, Easter Seals.
Small Talk.
Yeah, just amazing groups, amazing support. So,
Autism Spectrum Technologies.
Thank you all. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We're going to continue the Adventures with Walt channel. So, you know, feel free to like and subscribe.
Thank you for joining our Walt Talk.
Yeah, Walt Talk. Oh, Walt Talk. Instead of TED Talk, Walt Talk. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye. What's so funny?